I'm Ananda Shakti of OnlyLoveIsReal.love. And today is the 10th day of Christmas. I sang our song yesterday, so I won't do it for you again. You can thank me now. And what I'd like to offer to you today as my gift is teachings around what is real transformation of your psychology, of your spiritual psychology, of your destiny, what needs to be done for this to really take place. There's a lot of misunderstandings. There's a lot of confused marketing that's taking place in the spiritual world around it. And I've been really meditating on it very deeply as something to communicate. And so I'm going to do it today as my gift to you. There are something called dualities or polar experiences, good and bad, hot and cold, up, down, this idea of opposites, pairs of opposites. And then there is something that transcends the pairs of opposites. And in spiritual teachings, the transcendence of the opposites is the oneness. The consciousness that is everything and beyond everything. The I am presence, the I am love presence, however you wish to name it. In more average psychological journeying, what happens is that one finds himself in some afflicted state, and then they try to work themselves to the opposite of that afflicted state. So for instance, they want to come from sadness to happiness. Of course, nothing wrong. A person feels sad and does not feel good feeling sad. They want to feel happy. Yes, we all want to feel good. But what we really want to do, where we really want to get to, and what our real birthright is, and what the time of this time is calling for us, because we're being called to our most liberated place, is to, using a Sanskrit word, to the Anand. So Anand means bliss. It doesn't mean rah rah, sis boom rah. like just jumping around in celebration, although it could be. But what it means is a constant state of God consciousness, of the presence of the divine, that holds itself through all duality. So my name, Anand Shakti, that's what it means. The divine bliss energy that is beyond duality. Hot, cold, happy, sad, whatever it may be, pain, pleasure, the Anand stays there. That's when we have our I am presence activated. That's when we have transformed our destiny. When we take some experience of psychology, whether it's sadness, anger, frustration, whatever, and we create the opposite as a healing modality for us, it gives us some temporary relief, and it gives us a little bit of a different viewpoint. But it does not clear the pattern. It does not change that karma. You are still in the story because you're in the duality of the story. If you actually want to transform the karma and release yourself from that story, because sooner or later, that happy version of it is going to switch back into the other version of it. And we have all experienced this. How many times can you even count that high in our lives? It's the way that things work. Life is actually a science in that way. It's full of mystery, which I love. But there's a part of it that is scientific and mysterious at the same time. So if you want to truly make transformation, you need to step out of the story. And what does that mean? Because to most people, what they're experiencing is not a story. It is their experience of life. It's their experience of their personality, of who they are, of who their parents were, of the genetic influences and the ancestral influences. And that doesn't feel like a story. It feels like again, a scientific reality, like it's genetically passed on, it's habitually passed on, it's circumstantially created by different experiences. That is one level of perception. But the more subtle level of perception is that every being is the divine, embodied divine consciousness. And every being is a living, breathing, one-person act, show, play, where they're playing all of these characters, all of the karma that they have accumulated, or like costumes and roles that they play, and they are stories that are on top of their supreme consciousness, on top of the supreme reality, on top of the Anand that lives in every person, the bliss body. And so therefore, every experience in life that we have is a tendency from an imprint that we are carrying as a spiritual being. So we need to step out of the whole story, meaning that we need to release our identity with the stories. Why do we have these stories that create illness, that create all sorts of difficulties for us? It's because we are identified with them. We believe that they are who we are, that they are part of our personality. But they are only part of a limited idea of our personality, not the real personality. The real personality knows itself to be one with creation. So just shifting it is not going to change it. It's not going to eliminate it. It's going to change it, and then it will switch back at some point. Recognizing what the story is that we are involved in that moment is the thing that is going to allow us to actually step out of it, release our identity with it. So this is the way to make real transformation. And it's not that attractive to the ego structure, because the ego structure likes the other version. It's kind of like, you know, okay, I changed from that to that, and it's had this experience, and maybe it's even able to say, and oh, that was so bad, and maybe there were bad people involved in it, and I got away from it, and all sorts of different ideas of victim and persecutor and rescuer all live within those stories in the way that our personalities shift, or it might be very subtle and very humble, like we're so happy to have made this transformation, but we're still in the story. It's still in the story. Now, letting go of the story completely, the ego doesn't find that very glamorous, because it's a completely different act. It's very humbling. It's humbling in such a good way. You have to go into complete self-responsibility, and I say that word a little bit hesitantly because I do not mean self-blame. I do not mean that I'll just take this example because it comes up a lot in these conversations. If a woman is raped, that it's her fault because she has that karma. No, no, no. But what is her responsibility is how she ends up dealing with that trauma. That is fully hers, is how she manages how to deal with that trauma. That's the responsibility that is in her hands. And so whatever life experiences we come into, where our power lives is in our ability to, whatever length of time it might take, because something as traumatic as a rape could take quite some time to get to that point, but that's okay. Whenever we can get there, to get to the point of, okay, I really get now, I've expressed everything I need to express about this difficult experience I've been through, and now I see, no matter what I do, something from the outside is not going to change it. I have to change the way that I'm relating to it now. That is the same for every human being. Then we're on level playing ground. There's no hierarchy, because it's the same for every human being. Nobody can get around that. So this is what I mean when I'm saying full responsibility. The full responsibility of the fact that we are the masters of how something ends up for us. And that we can say, not only can we create resolution within ourselves for something that has been difficult or something that is easy, but we can also say, and now this story is no longer the story I wish to live in. This is our magical birthright, and it is the birthright that is being gifted to us on the planet at this time. We're ready for it. We may not look like we're ready for it. I mean, we see even the people that are, you know, the aspirants, like flailing around a bit, like really, you know, having to reset and reset and reset. But we are ready for it. And we will find our way. We're finding our way. And the more we can remind each other, of course, is really good. And the more we can laugh at it is even better. You know, one of the greatest teachings that come from every great master I've ever encountered is, until you can laugh at even like the worst scenario you've been involved in, you haven't really healed it, you haven't really transformed it. And it's not a laughing like ha ha ha, like laughing at it. It's being able to really find the humor of like the human self and the God self kind of humor of our identifications and our attachments and the things that happen to us as these 3D dense body beings that we are. So what does it mean to step out of a story? What does it mean to release our identity with the story? Well, it actually is a process of choice or surrender or release, and it is one of knowledge as well. So first of all, we have to know that that is our birthright. We have to believe that, and we have to know that is true, and we have to want that. From that place, then we begin the positioning of choosing it, of saying, okay, I see I'm in this story. Over here it happened, when I was 2 it happened, when I was 22 it happened. Oh, it's still happening now. Oh, it happened over there. Oh, okay, I get it, I'm in this story. I'm tired of this story. I don't want to be in the story anymore. I get the wisdom and I'm done with the story. That's your right. A human being has within them personal, unconscious, and collective unconscious. And we have all of the stories of humanity in us. We could be in any story. Our ego structure, for karmic reasons, identifies with some more than another, but spiritual psychology is the work of breaking out of that limitation. We are the master and we are the absolute villain. Everything is within us. And then we get to choose. And it's not a right or wrong. It's not a duality. It is a multidimensional expression of creation. Creation is artistic, not moralistic, in its real nature. Otherwise, it wouldn't create everything that it created. If you really look at it, it creates everything in a way that compels evolution. It's an evolutionary structure, and it is artistic, it's not moralistic. And when we hold moral constraints on activities, it really limits our permission to grow. I'm a little cautious saying these words because I know they're easy to misunderstand. Because there is such a thing as moral or righteous or helpful activity, action. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist. I'm saying that a person, regardless of what they happen to be exploring as their life experience, and it is an exploration, that person doesn't become good or evil. The actions might be that, but the person is not. Who amongst us can throw the first stone? This is that teaching. There is nobody who is more bad than another and not more good than another. We are all on that same level playing field in our true essence, but we are acting out different scripts, different senses of our reality. And releasing ourselves from the identity of the stories, accepting that whatever we are in is actually a story rather than a reality that doesn't actually need to be therapeuticized, although there's nothing wrong with that, if it's helpful as a temporary experience of getting a few viewpoints on what's going on. But accepting that it is a story and we can step out of it, this is where we get authentic and permanent change, something that actually stays with us. Then we realize we are no longer that. And we don't need to be that any longer. And of course, part of that realization, part of the ability to do that means that you've had some either recognition or just strong ability to believe that you are actually something wonderful, something immense and great, which is the truth. That you are actually part of this incredible, inexplainable reality that we're in that is so rich and abundant beyond any kind of ability to analyze it. That you are part of this. You're not somehow the only thing that seemed to slip in, but you didn't really deserve it, or somehow you got here by mistake, or or you're not going to make it, or all these other kinds of thoughts that come in. You are actually full-on part of it, and just as empowered as any empowered being that you respect. It's a matter of perception. I have one guru who is very blessed to me, and one thing that she says is, just ask me for whatever you want, I have no more stories. And she didn't teach me this whole idea of the stories. I've been deeply immersed in this through my karmic readings for decades. And when I heard her say that, I thought, I completely get what she's saying. Like, she has released her identity with all of the stories. So now she's overflowing. She can be in true service because she doesn't need anything back. She doesn't have a story. A story will always need something back. A story has something in it where it wants something back. That's what makes it a story. She doesn't have any more, so now you can ask for whatever blessing you want. She's got extra to give. We can all be like that sooner or later, but let's just be the best, the best that we can each day, meaning like the thing that is just loving. Let's love ourselves. And through that lovingness, then we will learn to love others, and we will learn to believe that we are more than our current circumstances, and that our process of incarnation is one in which we're here to understand that and to start working that program, to start letting ourselves, what's the right word for it? Go on that, enter that path of evolution. That's why we're here. Not to get a good job or good wife or husband or have a baby or not have a baby. That's just byproduct. That's just ways that we act out the stories. We are here to evolve our consciousness from limitation and separation into oneness. And now we are so big since 2020 in this idea of oneness. It's the big, if anything is being taught through this time, it's oneness. That's the big teaching. And so if you ever get confused or wonder why what's going on is going on, if conflicts and things start to not make sense, just remember that we are being squeezed and hugged into oneness. I was speaking to a friend today about this idea of feeling like everybody's checkmated in a way with their unprocessed psychology. They have to deal with it. It's just pushed, 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 pushed. But we could say they're checkmate, or we could say the Divine Mother now has come so close to us. The veil has become so thin that she is hugging us. We are the crying babies. We are. And she is squeezing us and holding us, and she is not going to let us go until we feel loved. And in that squeezing and in that holding, all of the stuff that we haven't had a chance, we haven't had the ability to overcome yet, is being squeezed to the surface. If we see it that way, isn't it so much more beautiful? And you feel like you can surrender to it. You don't have this worry about, am I doing the right thing? Can I overcome it? Oh, I don't think I can even face that. Oh, what is it? Like anger, frustrations, all these different things. I mean, we all have different ways we react stuff when it comes up, or other people's stuff when it comes up. But if we see that the mother is holding us and like we are the crying babies, and she's like, no, she's not going to put this baby down until it stops crying. And her love is so pure and so divine that it just is pulling every bit of the shadow up for us, because it's where we are entering alternate dimensional realities now as a collective. So she's not going to put us down until we stop crying. Meaning, and that not until we stop crying, but until we're really feeling the love. And this is a more accurate way to look at what's happening now, and it is certainly a much more user-friendly and loving way to look at what's happening. So you can feel that as you feel your difficulties coming up, that it's like, oh, you know, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, I've had it, where something's held inside and you didn't even know it's there, and somebody comes and gives you a hug and they just hug you in such a way that you just start to cry. It just brings it to the surface. And you didn't even know that it needed to come to the surface, but their love was so pure that you finally felt like, oh, there's somebody who really is here. This is what's happening. She's hugging us. Devi Ma, Shakti Ma, Magdalena, Mary, whoever you want to call her. She's hugging us, and in such a pure way that what we didn't even know was there is coming up, but we're experiencing it as kind of like horror and terror. But it's not that. It's something very different. So I wish you so much love in your journey. Please stay in touch. Please reach out with questions. Please check out my website for things like the readings. You can find out your deepest story if you want to through that modality. I can help you with that. Let's stay in touch, because it is important to have communication. It's important we all have something valuable to share with each other. Happy holy nights. We are still in these radiant, mystical nights of Christmas. I mean, it might be daytime where you are, but it's the vibration. And I love you, and thank you so much for tuning in. This was much, much longer than I expected it to be.